welcome to my video. Thanks for watching and listening. When the opportunity arose to do this video for REH, I had to think about what I might like the central theme or the idea to be, and what I might say to other players and what I might have to offer other players at different levels. I decided to work as much as possible with the central idea of laying the foundation, laying the groundwork, and specifically working with the blues. For the more advanced players watching this video, there may be much here that seems obvious or simple. But for the less advanced players, I think there'll be some interesting ideas and some simple, effective bass lines that you might find very useful. So enjoy the video, and we'll be back and talk a little bit later. The first things we're going to play here are examples of traditional blueses. Most of what I'll be playing is based on some traditional blues song or blues style. Some of these would have originally been played on upright bass, a few of them on electric, and some of them even on guitar or maybe piano, as they're more chordal in nature. A question you may want to ask is, why blues? Why should I worry about learning this stuff? It's old. It doesn't really apply in today's music. I can only say that for me, blues has been a great source of inspiration through the years. It's the well. It's a fountain of information and knowledge that I find myself continually going back to draw from. I still listen to the same old Chess records and Argo records and King records that I listened to when I was 12 and 13 years old. And I still find new things in them. I find subtle things in the playing of people like Willie Dixon that I didn't hear before. And it's very inspiring, so I suggest listening to as many of these old records as you can. Okay, so let's tune up and we'll get started. So here we go. So coming up here, we're going to do a couple of very traditional sounding blueses. Some of them originally had no bass at all, maybe two guitars and a piano, and much of the old blues stuff, they didn't have a bass player. So sometimes a guitar player would play low on the guitar, or the piano player would just play low on the piano. This first thing we're going to do kind of emulates an old Elmore James tune, and I'm playing a lot of chords up on top of the neck above the 12th fret and basically emulating a guitar part. So some of the voicings I was playing on that thing are really very simple but very effective. The G7, where the lick is based. Or you could play if you prefer. On the 4 chord, the C, I'm playing a C over a G, usually. It's a very funky sound. The D, the same thing, over the 5th. Now, on the 4 chord, you might want to drop down here, play the 5th and the 10th. Or 2nd inverse. In there somewhere. Position. It's a little nutty, but it still sounds. Something else that came up there, of course, is the old kind of Jimmy Reed boogie-woogie kind of lick. You want to throw the 7th in there, you can play it up here. You know, get sloppy about it if you want. You know, make it groove a little more. I don't think I actually played this, but it just came to mind. Something I have played in the past, say over the C chord. This particular lick played by guitar players, well, the guitar player would usually play. The bass player against that might play something like. And I've been known to sometimes throw the two of them together, creating something like. Okay, this next thing is similar to a little Walter tune, in which again there was no bass. It had 2 guitars, harmonica, drums, and I'm playing one of the guitar parts. It's a very simple little lick, but a classic blues lick in its own way, so I wanted to show it to you. That little line that you just heard, simple as it is very effective and very classic in its own way. like that, actually, in the blues. This one uses just a little bit of chromaticism between the sixth and the fifth. Others use even more chromaticism. Another classic line is might have just as easily played it like that, or even and in all of these examples, the lick was played over all three of the changes, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. The same. Very simple. Okay. This next piece is, again, a very simple thing, but a classic blues form. It's based on a Sonny Boy Williamson song called Help Me. It was also used very effectively by Booker T and the MGs in a song called Green Onions. It's basically a minor blues. With that groove, and it sounds like this. So again, the basic baseline on this is really as simple as can be. I mean, anybody can play this line. It's a beginner's line, but it's very effective. Now you can throw a few little ghost notes, a few little grace notes into it, and maybe push it along a little more. Yeah, the basic idea with something as simple as this is to make it swing, make it move, because as simple as it is, if you don't put anything behind it, it's just going to lay there. The drummer's going to nod off and the audience is going to walk out. So you need to make it swing, you need to do something to propel it a little bit, and just need to use your creativity. There's actually a lot that can be done with something like that. You can go into a walk thing. A thing I go into sometimes on these minor blues is just a simple lick with fifths. I'll play 4 bars just to set it up and then show you. Something like that would kind of double up the time feel and just put a little something more behind the soloist when everything gets screaming. This next one we're going to play is similar to a blues track that is perhaps one of my favorites. It's similar to a song called Hoodoo Man Blues by Junior Wells. This particular track is the first blues song I ever heard Buddy Guy playing on. He plays through a Leslie. The sound is fantastic, and it's a funky kind of little shuffle thing. The bass line is really funky and busier than you'd expect, but still very much in the pocket. That bass line, I'll just slow it down a little bit and play it for you. It's pretty cool. One thing that's unique about this particular bass line is you're always crossing a string, skipping a string, that is. And so it's kind of giving your right hand a little bit of a workout.
to the bone. You cut me to the bone. You've got a long way from hurting me. Now you're leaving me in misery. Forget about it all that we've been through. We're gonna do the thing we wanna do. And you don't wanna hear saying what I'm saying. Cut me to the bone. Baby, you cut me to the bone. You cut me to the bone. Lost in a dream, that's what you are. One day you'll wake up and see them too far. Now the sunshine and leaves the rain, but it was never meant to be rain. And you don't wanna hear say what I'm saying. You cut me to the bone. Baby, you cut me to the bone. You cut me to the bone. You know what I mean? You know the way you cut me to the bone.
So now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your instrument. Specifically, we'll talk about my instruments, and then you can think about yours. It's something that I've spent a lot of time and effort, a lot of years struggling to perfect, just getting a certain sound, a certain feel. This particular bass that I have is one that I just put together. It's a prototype Fender model that something like this may be coming out next year. It's built around the concept of a jazz bass. In fact, it was built using Fender parts. I put it together with the help of a friend, and then Fender painted it. But it's basically a jazz bass with a single master volume and a tone, pickup selector switch, and these tap switches for these pickups, which are nothing more than vintage jazz bass pickups with a second pickup with the magnetic field reversed. So switchable by switching. It can be either a single coil jazz bass, two single coil jazz bass pickups in parallel, or one humbucking pickup. So it allows a few other tonal possibilities while retaining the traditional jazz bass sound, which is basically what I use most of the time. In most instances, the jazz bass single coil sound is the one I use. It's the one I used almost always when tapping. That's jazz bass pickups, single coil, mid position, both pickups full on, volume, tone, full on. Most of the time you could take the two jazz bass pickups, wire it straight to the output jack, and that would be your sound. Sometimes it helps a little bit if the chords aren't coming out. I go up into the humbucking mode on the treble pickup, and it's just a little bit stronger, a little less clear, but a little stronger. Specifically, when dealing with the two-hand tapping and the chording, this is the sound that I find really works. The neck pickup by itself is a nice sound as well. It's a little warmer, a little more throaty sounding. But it's lacking in top end a little bit. So it's the mid position that I use the most. This is something that people ask me about all the time. In fact, it's the most common question I'm asked after every gig is, how do you get that organ sound? And so I guess I'll go ahead and divulge it. First of all, what I always tell people is it's the instrument. It's the instrument first and the way you play it. Simple as that. The rest of it, they want to know, well, what's the vibrato? What's the chorus? Are you using reverb? And the answer is yes. Sometimes just chorus, sometimes just the reverb, sometimes both. But it starts and ends right here. The rest of it is really secondary. You have to have round strings to pull this off. And your instrument has to be set up very well. You have to have just the right amount of relief on the neck, just a slight amount. If you have too much, it's going to be too hard to play. If you have too little, you're going to fret out when you do it. So the instrument has to be absolutely perfectly set up. It's best to have good frets. Refret the instrument as often as you can afford it, and as often as it will take it within reason. New frets, new strings, set up right, and then you're ready to apply your technique. So the left hand strikes the string pretty much in the same place you'd normally fret. That is, just behind the fret. Sometimes you have a little bit of a muting consideration. The other fingers of the left hand can be used for that if needed. There I'm kind of muting a little bit with the middle finger. But most of the time, if the attack is good, if it's well played, it will carry. Something else I get asked a lot when I'm doing the two-handed thing, and I have my Leslie-ish effect on. People ask, they comment that when I'm playing, it sounds like the top is affected and the bottom is not. And that isn't the case. Both right and left hand are being affected. And I actually thought about this a little bit when I built my 6-string, because the coils on the pickups on this bass go the bottom 3 strings and then the top 3 strings, 2 separate coils. And I thought about splitting the output where the top strings would go to the Leslie effect and the bottom strings would stay plain. But when I thought it through, I came back again to the Hammond organ and remembered that, of course, anything played on the organ is going through the Leslie. The whole sound is going through the Leslie, and the swirl effect is happening on the bottom notes as well as the top notes. And I thought, well, so why shouldn't it be the same on the bass? And it doesn't seem to affect it at all. In the right hand, again, it's just necessary to get a clean attack. It's really little more than that. Again, it's so important that the bass be set up well. The notes have to be clear when you attack them, and they have to ring. They have to sustain. On the right hand, covering the top 2 strings, you're pretty much just going to use those fingers, the first 2. Unless you get really adventurous on a chord, which I occasionally do, you might grab something like that, just because it's simpler to execute with the first and third than it would be to try to make that spread with 1 and 2. But pretty much these 2, that's all you need. 2 is all you need. So this next thing we're going to do is in the style of an Al King song called Crosscut Saw. For the first time, I'll bring in some of the 2-hand technique that I use with the band. We are a trio, and so there's a lot of space for quarter work and for this 2-handed work. what's happening in this song, the left hand is playing pretty much the traditional bass part. The right hand is tapping. Of course, both hands are tapping. The right hand is tapping the horn arrangement, actually, as accompaniment for the soloist. So the left hand is doing something like this. And so on. Now you noticed, of course, that I went up the neck to go to the 4 chord and the 5 chord. The reason being, you can only use 2 strings in the left hand as you're using the top 2 strings in the right hand. In the right hand, I've actually picked up some of the horn arrangement, pretty literally. It involves a lot of tritones, using the 7th and the 3rd, or the 10th if you prefer, and G, and C, on fret, which again gives you the 7th and the 3rd. Tritones in the right hand when doing chordal work are tremendously effective. I mean, you can almost do nothing but play tritones and fourths and play just about everything you'll ever need to play. If I remember correctly, how I played this song with the guys here a minute ago, is I started out just holding the chord in the right hand while playing the bass line in the left. At some point, started picking up the horn chart. Maybe at a later point went to straight 8ths. And then finally, the grand horn lick. So let's try to put it all together here. This next thing that the band and I will play is really more of a jazz blues, and it again employs a lot of the two-handed tapping techniques. It plays some basic blues changes, also a few little substitutions here and there, and we'll come back and talk about it after this. Some of the first jazz, live jazz, that I was really affected by was organ trio that I heard in Austin, Texas. And one thing I noticed immediately, even before I walked into this particular club where I heard my first live organ trio, was the bass was knocking me down from the moment I stepped out of my car. And the bass in an organ trio has to be very simple and very effective, because the organist is often playing chords or solos in his right hand, and the left hand is carrying the bass. Most people think that they're doing it with the pedals, but that's not really true, except for sometimes on ballads. Most of the time the bass is being played in the left hand, and the solo is going on in the right. So there's a lot of coordination involved there that maybe we'll maybe we'll get lucky and do here. So the bass line has to be very simple. And when I was still in my teens, I started picking up on some of these bass lines because they were simple enough that I could hear them in a club and go home and play them. And I found out that these lines worked great on swing tunes, and they were not all that difficult. Something like this. And even that is probably more playing than the organ player would actually do. The little grace notes and things that I'm throwing in there, he might achieve by kicking the pedals or something. But the line might be really dirt simple to. Really that simple, but it still swings. You know, if you put the feel behind it, if the drummer's cooking along and the solo is burning, that works. So again, I'm employing a lot of these very simple, basic bass lines in my left hand so that I can bring in some chordal work into the right. So here we'll roll a little bit of drum machine, and I'll give you an idea of what my left hand might do first.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
So just to let you know what's going on chordally here, some of what's going on, it's pretty straight ahead jazz blues to begin with. 1, 4, 1, then 3, 6, 2, 5. Sometimes the 3 chord is minor. Traditionally, I believe it's minor. Although sometimes I play the 7th. You can really get away with either one so long as everyone knows what you're doing. So in this particular case, in the key of F, the A could be either an A7 or an A minor 7. The D is always going to be a 7. The G chord again could be a G minor 7 or a G dominant 7. The C is always going to be a C7. Of course, any of these could be altered. But we won't be outlining that here most likely. We pretty much have to stick to the 7th and the 3rd of the chord in the right hand. So here's the basic chords that we're playing on this blues. F7, B flat 7, F7 again, back to the 3rd, B flat 7, F7. 7, D7, G minor, 7, C7, F7, or the turnaround again, G minor, D, G minor, C, F. Sometimes the 3 chord, you might play a dominant 7, and the 2 chord also could be dominant. I do that a lot. And then of course we can also do substitutions when you go to the 6, for instance. This is leading to the G dominant 7. However, just as easily playing a C sharp or a D flat 7, leading to the C7. There's a lot of substitutions available, and fortunately, we can get them all with our tritones here. Walk it right down. Just one way you can walk. So another chord progression that I played, and I believe it was in the 3rd chorus, involved a few more chord changes, and it's in your book. Went something like this. F, E minor, A7, D minor 7, C sharp minor, B flat, C minor, F7, B flat 7. Here's the rub. B minor, E7, A minor, D7, A flat minor, B flat 7, G minor 7, C. Now either to the F or back to the 3-6-2-5-1. So now I'll play this blues for you one more time using the drum machine, a little more slowly than we did it with the group, and let you look at some of these chord changes.
2, 1, 2, 3.
This next thing we're going to do is basically just a slow blues in C. Before we jump off and do that, I can tell you that playing a slow blues in a trio on the bass can be one of the more harrowing experiences you'll ever have, especially if you're given a solo. Blues solos on bass is in itself a harrowing experience, and one I haven't quite recovered from yet, but nevertheless I'm going to try to do a little bit of solo for you up front, use a little bit of chords, and maybe then we'll come back and talk about what we did. around the slow blues. Of course, there are endless possibilities for bass lines. Many of them classic and I'm sure familiar. Here's one, very familiar. Another one would be something like all those lines kind of just start on the root, come back to the root at the downbeat of the next bar. And then of course there's just a slow walking bass line. And so on. There's so many possibilities there, and of course it's open to your own creativity and desire. This bass is a prototype that was made for me by Michael Stevens of Alpine, Texas, who briefly worked at the Fender Custom Shop. But it's designed to be basically a 6-string version of the same 4-string bass. As you'll see, the pickups look like well, they look like large dominoes, but they look like elongated versions of the jazz bass pickups that I just showed you. And the setup is really the same: pickup selector, volume, tone. The switch is no longer functioning, and the coil tap switches are on the edge of the bass. It's about the basic difference. It's obviously 6-string, alderwood maple neck, and pretty much the same as the jazz bass. Again, I'm going for that classic jazz bass sound. This is an old P bass that I modified years ago. I almost regret it now. I almost wish I had just left it alone as a P bass, because mostly these days I use it as a P bass, but years ago I put the double jazz bass pickups in the bridge position. And I'm using flat wound strings on it these days, going for more of that traditional P bass sound. And I've got some foam stuck in the bridge just to accentuate the muting a little bit more. Now for the optimum in muting, we have this Fender Coronado 2, which is a 66 actually, but I found it new a couple of years ago through Dan Smith at Fender Instruments. And this is about as dead sounding as anything you can imagine, but it has a function. I've used it on a couple of records already, and it's kind of fun to play. It's a funky thing. It has nylon wrap strings on it. It's a shorter scale. I'm not sure exactly what, but it's dead enough sounding as it is. And then I've stuffed this foam in the bridge. It's a real thumper. But actually, I played it on one tune on a new record coming out, Mystic Mile, on the European version, a tune called "I Don't Play." Rounding out what I have here today is just a stock 66 jazz bass, and this is just one of several that I have actually. But I use this bass on 2 Eric Johnson records, and various studio things that I've done with Robin. It's completely stock 66, and the pickups are just slightly microphonic. It's the brightest bass I have. It sounds great. I love it. Coming up in this section, we're going to be playing some shuffles, Tom and I. I'm going to play several different lines, which hopefully will also give you some ideas of your own. There's probably a million different ways to play a shuffle, probably as many ways to play it as there are bass players to play it. But here's a few of them, and here we go. So what you just heard was several variations on a shuffle. The first thing we played was what I call a stride feel. I've also heard it called a Texas shuffle, and probably other things, tune names or whatever. But it's basically a lazy feeling line, just simply going 1, 3, 5, 6. You can push it along a little bit with your right hand, the use of grace notes. And you could do a lot of other things to it as well. You could play it in octaves. But it's a feel more than anything. From that, we went into what's probably very familiar to most of you. I've heard it called a bouncing bass shuffle. And it's probably the most familiar of all shuffle bass lines, and there are a few variations on it, which you heard. Ascending. And descending. You can do the ascending line with triplets. And so on. Then we went into just the single note bouncing bass. Very, very simple. And then to the single note bouncing bass with grace notes from the right hand. And then to fifths. Yes, so the fifth scale of the chromatis. And so on. So what we just did was to play a couple of different grooves and a few lines inspired from various players. The first thing was inspired by the bass work of Willie Dixon. It's a pretty basic line employing a lot of triad. Also another thing that he did a lot, just using the fifth. Together. From there, we went into a line that I find myself using a lot. There's something kind of humorous about it, and I like it. It's a chromatic sounding line, as you heard. And from that, we went into what I call an open string shuffle line, using the open E and A, something like this. So we just played 3 or 4 examples of a groove and bass lines that I think were probably inspired by an old song called Night Train. At least that's the oldest example, recorded example I could find of this type of bass line. We played Night Train, Drive and Wheel by Junior Parker, and a thing by Little Walter called Southern Feeling. And on the end of it, I played another similar line that actually I don't have any idea where it came from. I've heard it before, but I couldn't find the actual recorded example. But they're all kind of based around 6, 7, and descent. Is something like Southern Feeling. And then there was the last one that we played, which is the unknown one, but it's something like And last but not least, we have here the Beast. And we're going to play for you a song that is a perennial set closer for Robin Ford and the Blue Line, a song called Talk to Your Daughter. And it too is a shuffle and employs a lot of octaves in the bass and some lower notes than we've been hearing before. And we'll play it for you now. Thomas?
1, 2, 3.
He's the only guy that I know who plays the real blues, bass, and at the same time can, play through chord changes and and he plays the upright really well, and I think that's something that you can just kind of sense in his playing. So the versatility, great time, and all those roots, that's what I look for. He plays the 6th string a lot, so he's got that low B down there, which is my favorite string on a bass guitar, is that extra low one. And the combination of having that deepness, and these wonderful chords, up on top with that organ sound. It literally sounds like a Hammond organ, So it's a big sound, and it frees me up tremendously, just to kind of relax and play.
That's the end of the video. Thanks for listening and watching. Don't forget to go out there and buy those Robin Ford and Blue Line records. See you next time.